Hey everybody, before we start the show today, I wanted to talk to you about investigatorstoolbox.com. This is the future of networking, training, and resource management. I am really excited by the amount of people that are in the site already and what's going on there, and the amount of training that we've got on there, the webinars, the blogs, OSINT resources, over 130, I think it's close to 140. This is where you guys want to be. If you are interested in bringing your business to the next level, if you're interested in networking with the best investigative minds that are out there, if you're interested in free training from some of the best investigators out there, you need to be in investigatorstoolbox.com. So it's investigators-toolbox.com. You want to go check it out. The legacy discount is ending very shortly. If you're interested, you need to join this site right away. If you wait too long, you're going to miss out on the $50 discount. Don't delay. Get in there. It's like 41 cents a day right now to get in there. If you can't afford 41 cents a day to make yourself better at what you're doing, what are you guys doing in this business, right? So investigatorstoolbox.com. I wanted to talk to you about that today, and go check it out. And we're going to start the show. Enjoy the show, guys.
What do you do when you get calls for bug sweeps? Did you know USABugSweeps.com, the #1 TSCM provider in the country, pays you a 20% commission for converted sales leads? Stop turning money away. USABugSweeps.com uses top-rated technology, and they cover all of the United States. So save time and make money today. Contact USABugSweeps.com and mention PIP20. Welcome to PI Perspectives. Today, under the magnifying glass is pink-collar fraud expert Kelly Paxton. Kelly is a force in the fraud community and recently started her own podcast, Great Women in Fraud. Matt and Kelly have either spoken at or attended several conferences together recently. Today we dig into what fraud investigation looks like and how to become an expert in the field. So please welcome Kelly Paxton and your host, private investigator Matt Spare.
And welcome to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spare, your host, and we are going bi-coastal again this week. This time we went a little bit north. We headed up to Oregon, and wow, I've been running into Kelly Paxton pretty much everywhere. And we've had some, everywhere virtually anyways, and we've had some conversations. And Kelly just recently started a podcast, and I wanted to have her on and just talk about what her show is, what she does. So Kelly, welcome to the program. How are you?
I am awesome. And thank you so much for having me. And yeah, we have like Cybercraft Summit and just like all sorts of things. So this is kind of funny.
We're stalking each other. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we're stalking each other. Oh, we're not supposed to say that. No. So I started Great Women in Fraud. And you know what? That's one of the good things that has come out of COVID was this summer when I was kind of sort of bored, because I primarily speak and train literally around the world now. And COVID stopped all of that except virtual. And then this summer I was on Great Women in Compliance, which was kind of, you know, I'm not really compliance. I've worked with compliance and I think their function is so important. I was on a run one day listening to an episode of how they started. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do Great Women in Fraud. So I came back to my house. I immediately emailed Mary Shirley and I'm like, I want to do Great Women in Fraud. Can I do that? And she wrote back and she's like, yes. And then I had wanted to do a podcast for a couple of years, but it was too broad. Like it would have died. Okay. And this one I'm so excited about. So yeah, Great Women in Fraud launched. I'm dropping episode 6, I think tomorrow.
All right. You got one more till you can say you made it.
I know. Well, and actually I'm past podcast fade of 7. It's just, I'm putting them out week by week.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, I find just consistency, right? So the feedback I get from people, and I do get a lot of messages from people, LinkedIn and emails and whatever. It's just they appreciate that they know the consistency of once a week. There's going to be a show out and I'm going to have somebody different on and we're going to be talking about different things. But it is a commitment, right? So we have our day jobs and this is kind of like our side gig that, there's a lot of pressure to make sure I get this show out. So.
Well, I've said podcasts kind of have changed my life and people laugh at me when they say that, especially my family. There are certain podcasts that I like, Tuesdays and Fridays, I listen to Pivot no matter what.
Right.
And you get to like literally listen to people's thoughts. I mean, who would think that like if you're interested in something, you can find a podcast about it and you can find the expert about it. And much like you said when we were talking before this, we get a lot of people who reach out to us. And I mean, honestly, I can't talk to every single one of them, but if they go and they listen to the podcast and they're still really interested after they've seen how the sausage is made,
right,
then yeah, we can continue and have that conversation. So that's why podcasts are like, I love reading. I'm a voracious reader. Cynthia Hetherington, she was my first guest. She's like, we read all the time. But when I go for my daily runs, I can't read, but I can listen to podcasts. So
audiobook, yeah. Come on,
yeah.
I'm more of an audiobook guy. I don't know what it is that I just, when I start reading, like, and I can appreciate having a book in your hand and turning a page. Like I cannot read on a Kindle or anything like that. Like that's just a no-go for me. So when I do read, it is in my hand. But man, I fall asleep. Full disclosure, I fall asleep very easy reading. But audiobooks, I love audiobooks. And maybe it's, because when I was younger, I would go to the library and get the cassette tapes and listen to like the Lord of the Rings, and just, having this Dune and stuff like that. And just like, yes, and my brain is going, I'm thinking, but I love the audiobook. I'm a big audiobook person. And even, like the self-help and the Better Business Guide stuff, like it's really, really good stuff. Really good stuff to listen
I just suggested to Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers. I've read the book, but I've heard from several people to do it audio. So I already suggested to a guy today, I said, get Malcolm Gladwell's book, but I'd actually do it in Audible because he puts in actual audio clips that are really, really good. So some things come across better on Audible or, yeah, so.
Yeah, I guess pick your poison, right? Whatever you're good at. So, I can appreciate the not the addiction, but just really being into podcasting, listen to other people and what they have to say. I mean, first of all, in our industry, we're curious by nature, and we like to ask questions. We like to I almost have this obsession with meeting people. I love talking to witnesses. I love trying to figure out how something happened, and the podcast is opening up the world to someone's thoughts and all that. And I've always been like an interview guy, even growing up, like Howard Stern. If he's interviewing somebody, I want to listen to it. Letterman, I'm obsessed with Letterman's, new format that he's doing, just because he's interviewing interesting people. Even behind the actor studio, I mean, like you listen to that and you're like, okay, this is really cool. You pick, and take from different things, and just understanding how people think. I'm totally into it, and I think if you're an investigator or investigative by nature, you're going to like this format. It's something you're going to be drawn to, which I think that's, people do investigative podcasts because of that, right?
I was listening to your episode with John Hoda, and yeah, when I used to be on surveillance, you couldn't read. You had to look.
Right.
So, we had, crazy radio shows that we listened to in the past, but if I were doing surveillance now, it would be so much easier with the amount of podcasts out there. And you are learning a ton of stuff. That's the other thing, is my range of podcasts go from self-help, business, to politics, to, and of course, anything fraud related. Like, I don't know, do you listen to Swindled?
I've never heard Swindled, no.
Oh my gosh, you gotta listen to Swindled.
It's all over.
You're either gonna love it or hate it, because
Right.
it's by this guy, a concerned citizen. He's anonymous, but he will tell you he lives in Austin, Texas. He goes so deep on, white collar crime cases. So you got to listen to Swindled. He's one of my favorite. And I even have a poster in my office from him. I used to send out Swindled mugs. Swindled's really, really good. And he does the research. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing I got to say, like or not you per se, but people that do this podcast and do video, like they find a way to put little banners in the back or put little things off. They'll have little signals or codes. I think Brian Willingham's got a couple of shout outs from people that have done video conferencing, because his swag is hanging on the wall or something. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I know. So there's like a whole thing called room rater. So like what your room gets rated, and we're in the middle of a move.
Yeah.
And so like sorry, this is just a disaster right now, but I got my ring light and I've got my blue Yeti, but that's about it. But yeah, no, seeing people's offices is kind of, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so I have a nice shade of white. So I moved in recently, and I haven't really just gotten around to decorating. So yeah, we're going fourth wall here on this stuff. It's a little crazy. I did want to talk to you today about fraud and understanding your background a little bit and where you came from, because you just didn't decide you wanted to do this type of work in one day, right? You've got a pretty impressive background. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into the business.
So I say that my career has always been about money. So when I graduated college, I went and I worked at the Chicago Board of Trade, and then I became a stockbroker and a bond trader. And we had a client who was hinky, and I knew he was because like I ask a lot of questions, as my dad would say when I was getting my security clearance, because I became a federal agent for U.S. Customs, a special agent. And they do background checks, and they interviewed my dad because I worked for my dad for a year. And so the ex-FBI agent is like, so your daughter's pretty curious. And my dad goes, no, she's Snoopy.
Great.
So back to the whole money thing is I used to work in how people invested money. And then I became a special agent for US Customs, and I did primarily white collar crime cases. And it was, how did people, profit from crime? And then when I went and I worked for a local sheriff's office, because long story short, my husband got a job in the middle of the country and I couldn't be a customs agent. Go work for the sheriff's office, get my certified fraud examiner, and I start working Main Street embezzlement cases. Just, 60% of all dentists get ripped off by that nice office manager. So when you go to your dentist, ask them if they've been ripped off. And if they're quiet, they've been ripped off.
Right.
But I'm seeing all my suspects were women, except for one man who I said stole like a woman. And it changed how I looked at crime, because I had always seen crime as bad people, bad guys. I mean, when I was with Customs, I got to drive fast cars and carry a gun and go shoot at the range. It was a blast. Yeah, but I was seeing moms and sisters and wives, regular looking people committing crime. And that's where I Googled women embezzlers, and I found the term pink collar crime, which people to this day, even though they've known me for years, they think it's women committing crimes. No, it's position, not gender. Most women are in lower level positions, bookkeepers, office managers, right. Accounts payable.
Right.
And women are really good at embezzlement. It's the one crime they really excel at. So I'm known as the pink collar crime lady, but again, it's position, not gender. Women are in those positions.
Yeah.
So now
listen, great women in fraud, right? And you said it. It's not only for women. You'll have men on your show too. So
yeah, men can learn a lot from women. And now I kind of, in my third part of the career, I'm training, I'm coaching, I'm mentoring, but it's kind of like my biggest part is when a victim gets ripped off, you can replace the money. Money is very tangible. You can, sell more widgets, you can sell more of your time. Right. But the hurt, the shame, the humiliation is so much harder to get past. Yeah. And that's what I'm really working on with people. And we talked earlier, people are really disappointed in the system. If you've been ripped off by a close, trusted employee, you're devastated.
Sure.
And then it takes, in my county, civil cases are 4 years out. 4 years to get justice. And let me tell you, no one steals to save. So if you think you're getting restitution, you're dreaming.
Correct. Yeah. No. And listen, that's a good point you make. I mean, with the just the impact on our legal system, both criminally and civilly, getting due process, it's not so due these days. It's going to be a bit of a delay to it. So it's definitely something to to take into the factor. So yeah, I wasn't sure if that pink collar thing was something you came up with, or if it was really legit or out there.
No, so it's a criminologist. It came out of a big study in the 1970s out of Yale. But a criminologist, Dr. Kathleen Daly, who's now in Australia, and she really doesn't do this type of work anymore.
Sure.
It's petty acts committed by low to medium level employees, primarily women who steal from the workplace. Right. So it's a term just like white collar crime was coined by Edwin Sutherland in 1939. So I didn't make it up. I have the domain name and I speak on it.
Good for you.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm going to save your audience 8 hours of time. 2 summers ago, CBS with Marcia Clark of OJ, she lost the OJ case. So sure. Remember that.
Yeah.
She did a show called Pink Collar Crimes. They didn't ask me to consult. I know they went all over my website. They got it completely wrong. They made it women committing any type of crimes. It is very specific, and it's all over my website. It's embezzlement. Another term for pink collar crime is garden variety embezzlement. And Marcia Clark has this, I show it in my presentation. She talks about how they never come in and confess. And it's like, of course they're not going to confess to you, Marcia. You lost OJ.
So
come on.
I got a question for you. Is it straight hair Marcia Clark or curly hair Marcia Clark?
It's straight hair Marcia.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
She's more refined.
But she has this thing, Pink Collar Profiler,
right.
And only 2 of the 8 episodes were actually about embezzlement. Like they had 2 murderers, and pink collar crime, it's financial. It's a subset of white collar crime.
Gotcha.
I'm a little passionate about that.
Yeah, no, listen, you've made a living doing it. And you definitely are good at it. I mean, you've spoken many places. So like a typical year for you pre-COVID, speaking wise, how many events would you say you were doing?
So I've been speaking full time since 2016. And I want to say last year I did 30.
Wow.
Like 30 where I traveled. Then I did some virtual ones, but the 30 to 40 is good. Beyond that, you're on a plane. Like Cynthia, I don't know how Cynthia has done it. I think she's loving COVID because she doesn't have to race to the planes nonstop. It's rough traveling. And that's another good thing about COVID is I can spread the word farther now than I could when I would just go to a city and do my presentation.
It's awesome. And, I was just talking about this the other day with somebody, like the formats, the way they've set it up and how they've left them, right? You can still communicate with people that have gone to a particular event. I know like Osmosis is up till the end of the year. So if you want to reach out to somebody or go retake a class or brush up on one that you missed, you can go back and do that. And I think that's awesome because it used to be, 3 days done, hope you have a business card, so I'm kind of digging that part of it. And it's interesting to see the vendors slowly but surely start to shoot emails out because I am getting emails and I've attended quite a few events. So it's like, I'm starting to get that mail, and it's cool because honestly, I'm doing the same thing with my investigator's toolbox. So guilty as charged, and it's cool. I just like that there is that additional back and forth that you can communicate. And I think honestly, going forward, it's going to be hybrid. I think all these events are going to there'll be a live aspect to it, but you're going to see a great deal of content that's going to remain online pre-conference and even post. I think, in my opinion, I think that's the way we're going these days.
Well, that's another reason why. So I have the Great Women in Fraud podcast and I have the website, and the goal is to make it kind of a membership site, which, kind of sounds a little bit cheesy, but really it's all about the content. And like Investigator's Toolbox, I was looking at it this afternoon to prep, and it's like, that is awesome content. And where are you going to get it? Yeah. There's a lot of free stuff on the internet, and I'm a cheapskate. A lot of investigators are cheapskates because we've got to put it together.
Why does everybody say that?
Well, they are. I know this because but the thing is we can get someone from A to Z a lot quicker. Like everything I have ever said is on the internet somewhere.
Right.
I'm like, I don't save, I give it all out. But you're going to have to piece it together, and it is going to take you hours and hours to piece it together. So when you have the Investigators Toolbox or Great Women in Fraud or like Cynthia's Hetherington group and so many others, we package it up so you can consume it efficiently and put it to work right away.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole concept of what I was trying to do. Like, I wasn't trying to write a million articles or be the specialist on anything, although there are some things I specialize in. I wanted to create just that environment, that arena, that marketplace almost even, where you could go and, brush up on your skills and do whatever. And, just having something that's populated by its own members, I think is really cool too. Like, so since I've started the site, I think I got about 25 pieces of content that have been added by members, which is great because it's less work that Matt has to do other than just vet it and put it up. But this is not a commercial for the Investigators Toolbox. However, I appreciate the shout out. This is we're here to talk about you today. So we're going to take a break real quick, actually. And when we come back, I do want to delve more into your experience and maybe talk about some cases that over the years that have turned out differently than you thought they would. So everybody hang tight and we will be right back. Are you using a case management system? The answer is no. You should really rethink that process, right? So as you guys know, Crosstracks has been an amazing sponsor of the show. They've just been really supportive. As you guys also know, I didn't used to have a case management system. I was the investigator that was fighting them tooth and nail. I finally decided to give it a whirl. What a great decision, right? During the COVID shutdown, I was able to actually roll my whole business into it and get completely up and running. And my clients love it. I mean, just today, I got a phone call from a client of mine who just couldn't believe how easy it was to access everything and how invoices were there. He actually asked me to go back and upload all my prior cases and put it into Crosstracks. I've been doing business with that firm for, about 8 years, so it's a lot of cases. Yeah, if you don't use a case management system, you should, right? You should check it out. Give Crosstracks a shot. Contact Brad or one of the teammates over there, and they'll get you up and running with a trial and see if it's for you. If you have used Crosstracks and it's been a while and you're not happy with the system that you're in, go check them out. They're doing a lot of really cool new things and see if it's right for you. If you're unhappy with the system that you're in right now, contact them. The ability for them to roll your system into their system is very easy. Again, you guys know they've been sponsoring this program, and I can't say enough good things about them, but make your own decision, right? Give it a shot on your own and see if it's right for you.
Want full data access without a site inspection? IRB Search gives you full social security numbers, dates of birth, up-to-date contact info, and so much more, without the inconvenience or cost of an inspection. As an added bonus, you can access IRB data on any device in any location. You'll always have the best data, anytime, anywhere. Visit irbsearch.com and use exclusive promo code PI Podcast 2020 for a free trial and 100 credits. Offer available for new and returning customers. PI Perspectives. Do you work with an insurance agency that takes the time to give you the personal attention you deserve? Well, contact Michelle Knoll and her team to get the best customer service and attention available. You never need insurance until you really need insurance. So keep yourself and your business protected. Contact Michelle at mknoll@amoscorp.com. Did you hear about the latest issue of PI Magazine? Check out the cover feature on the Investigators Toolbox. You don't want to miss this great issue. Available today. Matt?
And welcome back to PI Perspectives, everybody. This is Matt, your host. We're here today with Kelly Paxton. And Kelly is talking about pink collar crime. And I learned something new today, that it's specifically for fraud, which I think is pretty cool. So Kelly, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's dig into, we talked about your speaking 30 events a year, 30 to 40 events, which is crazy. When did you first decide that, hey, I want to get into speaking and teaching and kind of go down that route?
It's kind of a long story, But and this is like very, very transparent here. I was an investigator and I was retaliated against. And when that happened, it was a gut punch. And I just was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I had spoken prior to my last place I worked at, and I really liked it, but I didn't realize that people got paid, unless you were Frank Abagnale, that you wouldn't get paid for it. I'm a member, I'm actually president-elect of the National Speakers Association Oregon chapter, and I had been to their events for a long time, just kind of off and on. They were interesting. And my husband is a college professor. He teaches education courses, and he goes, you love it when you get in front of a room and you can teach. Why don't you try and make a living at it?
Right.
And I did the Speakers Academy. I went full in, and I think this is the best work I have ever done.
That's great. Yeah. You know, I have it in my blood too. Like I have like come from like third, fourth generation teaching and musician. It's just kind of like, you know, it's what we do. So like that whole getting in front of people and doing things, it's like, yeah, whatever. You know?
Well, and I wasn't one of those kids who like did drama or debate. Like my mom she laughed at me. She's like, you get paid to speak? You used to sit in a corner and read a book. I'm very shy. I'm an introvert, but I get out there and I'm so passionate about my message. I don't care. Like I'm just so crazed to get the message out that the core of my stuff is honest people steal. Okay. And that's where people need to understand we have optimism bias in our life, that good things will only happen to us and bad things won't happen to us. And I have a great case where a guy, I knew his wife growing up. She married a guy, both very successful couple. He met me. And when he found out that I was a certified fraud examiner, private investigator, he very confidently said to me, I will never have to hire you. No one would dare steal from me. I'm a smart guy.
Red light right there.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, dude, whatever. Guess what happens 18 months later? $750,000 embezzlement by his trusted lieutenant. Yeah. She calls me. She's like, he's on the phone. My office tomorrow morning, attorneys. I've got a problem. Yeah. And so we don't want to think that people are dishonest. And someone was saying to me the other day that I work with, crime, but I can't get out of bed in the morning if I think that everyone's going to rip us off. I think life happens. And this is where COVID comes in. There was just New York Times did an article about how COVID has affected people losing jobs. Right. The fraud triangle, the financial pressures people are feeling, never in several generations have we seen this.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so people need to understand that most people are good. We're going to get rid of the psychopaths and the narcissists, but everyone else is generally good. But life happens. They don't expect their spouse to lose their job, their kid to get sick, their parent to be, whatever. And they make a poor decision. They make a poor choice. And it happens. And all the years I've been doing investigations for over 25 years, the best result you're going to get is using empathy and dignity. It is not going to be pounding on the table saying, I know you did it.
Right.
Well, you get it from empathy and dignity and treating them as human beings.
Social engineering, baby, right there. I mean, that's what it's all about. Like you create that comfort level, and you get more with honey. Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And just painting that picture and being able to create the comfort level. It's a skill that either you have it or you don't.
I had a boss of an ex-3-letter agency. We'll just leave it at that. And I was doing an interview, and the guy was, he showed me a text on his phone, so clearly it was not valid. And so we're laughing, and the guy leaves, and my boss comes up to me, and he's like, "What happened in there?" And I was like, "He didn't do it." And I got a text, and it shows it, and he's like, "They should never laugh in there. I love it when I make them cry." Now, what? Yeah, we're all people.
Right.
What? Yeah, he's out of the business.
Yeah, and listen, it's different styles, and I think that that type of behavior um, was more popular a long time ago, and not so much anymore. I mean, listen, they used to beat people with phone books too, so that doesn't happen anymore either. So
Well, and that's the thing about women. I mean, I'm not about the whole gender thing. It's just like, people think I am. But women are, I'm going to say women are incredibly curious and they're talkers. And also, a lot of times, people are off their guard with women. So,
yeah,
can I use it to my advantage?
listen,
Absolutely.
that's how women are great investigators. I mean, I've seen quite a few all-female investigative agencies. Brianne Joseph's got a great one down in New Orleans. Francie Kohler's got another one in California, all-female. I mean, you're not stretching here. There's nothing to apologize for because you do never see it coming, right? In fact, when I started in the business, I started doing mystery shopping. Right, that was the first gig I had out of college. And my partner, I was 22 or 20, 21 at the time when I started doing this. And my partner was a 53-year-old lady from Barbados. You would never think we were working together. We caught so many people stealing. I mean, it was great. And I felt bad for the lady because I made her listen to Metallica in the car rides everywhere we would drive to. She was super nice. It was either Elvis or Metallica. There was no in between. It was great.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we caught a lot of people though. And in the retail environment, when you catch somebody, they say what they're admitting to is usually about 25% of what they actually are taking. So it's crazy. And that was a big business. I worked for that company for about 3 years. We caught
That's
a
the
lot.
2 to 6 factor. So whatever someone says they steal, multiply it between 2 and 6. Sometimes it's as high as 10. But Rita Crundwell, she committed the largest municipal embezzlement in the country, stole 53.7 million.
Wow.
When she was pulled in by the FBI, she sang like a canary. That's another thing, is that in pink collar crime, they usually confess pretty easily. Marcia Clark, you're wrong.
Right.
Because she's like, it takes hours and hours. And it's like, no, not so much, Marcia. But so Rita Crundwell goes in, 2 FBI agents. Confesses. And she's like, yeah, I took 10 million. And it was 53.7. She fit right in my 2 to 6. I've seen it as high as 10,
Right.
but whatever they say, multiply it.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It really is an interesting line of work. I mean, in that field, not only was it mystery shopping, but we did a lot of pre-employment screening too. So there was that initial interview. So they would give like a Wonderlic or something like that type of intelligence test, and then they'd give a drug test, obviously, and then they'd have this. I don't know, it was about 50 or 60 questions that they would like psychology driven, and then we just interview them. And I remember I had this guy once, and he showed up to the job interview wearing a jumpsuit from JFK. Like he literally was a baggage handler, and he was applying for, I don't even remember what kind of job, but it was something that you wouldn't, if you wanted the job, you wouldn't show up looking like, you're supposed to be loading the baggage at the airport. And man, by the time I was done with this guy, what he admitted to me, I was like, I patted myself on the shoulder. I was like, wow, this is pretty good. Somebody needs to call the cops on this guy right away. And it was like one of those things, you call the client and you're like, don't hire this guy. It's going to be a problem.
Well, that's the thing, is like, when I have pink collar criminals, and according to the ACFE's report to the nation, only 4% of fraudsters have a criminal history. Now, again, we have to exclude the psychopaths and the narcissists and the serial grifters, but the everyday sort of regular type of person, yeah, they don't have a criminal history and they will confess.
Right.
And there's certain things, like you always ask them about the first time, because it's embedded in their brain, because these are people who have never so much as, jaywalked. And
Right.
then something happens in their life and they start stealing, and they remember the first time. Like, I don't know if you watched the section in Cybercraft with Nathan Mueller, who's embezzled $8.5 million.
Yeah.
He talked about his first check, and it's like $27,875. Now, if you asked him what he stole, 2 months into it, he'd go, I don't know, I stole. But if you ask them about the first time, these are people who have never, so much as gotten a parking ticket and then they start stealing. Ask them about the first time
So,
and it will come back.
I can tell you the first thing I ever stole in my life was a sticker set from the Five and Dime Scratch and Sniff. And I felt so bad about it, man. I went home and I couldn't sleep at night. Like I had to go, like I went crying to my parents, like I took this from the store. So yeah.
So I got kind of bullied in high school to take this stuffed animal from this resort we used to go to. It was like a Christmas display or something.
Right.
And I took it home and I came back. I didn't sleep for a week, just like you. I came back a week later without my friends around and I put the stuffed teddy bear back in the, sort of scene because I was so physically sick. And I never stole candy because my parents would give me candy, but I did take that teddy bear and it was kind of a dare in high school.
Right.
And I replaced it. I took it back the next week.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was like one and done for me. I promise.
Yeah.
I didn't steal anything other than smelly stickers.
And when I show that slide in the audience where I can see people, pre-COVID, and I show them, ask them about the first time. Remember when you went and you stole, a pack of gum, and you see people just kind of like look down and go, oh God, they remember it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's really, really interesting. So let's talk a little bit about, like, let's say you're an investigator and this isn't your specialty, and you come across something that just doesn't look right. What do you do? Who do you call, and how do you like dig into this further, to say like, okay, I think there's fraud going on here, but what's the next step? What do I really do here?
If you think there's fraud going on, okay, I always work under attorney-client privilege.
Right.
You kind of look for the attorney to be the coach of the team.
Right.
The other thing is I always tell my clients, like I do take cases, but they have to be very pink collar-ish.
Right.
And if I don't know it, or if I'm not comfortable, like you reached out to me recently for a case, it's a type of case that I don't like.
Right.
And it's like, I will find the person who is better to do it.
Right.
And Justin Seitz, who I know you did for the quick hits prior to Osmosis, I subcontracted him one time because I could have done it, but I knew he would do a better work product and he could turn it around quicker.
Sure.
And it was for someone that it really needed his expertise. So I think, and this is why Investigators Toolbox, not again to pimp you out, but we need
I'm not stopping you. Go ahead.
we need to have connections, because you cannot be a jack of all trades or whatever, master of none.
Yeah.
I can't do computer forensic stuff. I'm good at OSINT. I'm not the best, but I know who is.
Yeah.
And so going to conferences, whether they're virtual or online, you need to see who's speaking, who's presenting, who is out there creating content that does a good product. I'm all about, doing the best for my client. And if it means me losing a gig, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and that's fine. And Jim Nano says it all the time, right? It's always better to know the guy than be the guy. And it's that's how you make business, or how you make a living in this business, right? You just know when to tap out and tap on that resource. So usually, like when I start something, I'll do the initial work on it and I'll try and solve the problem. And if I can't solve it, I'll know at least I got, I did a little bit on it, and maybe I can solve that problem at a good rate for my client. But then maybe it's time to bring in the big guns, and I leave it up to them and say, hey, this is what we've got here. I think there's more, and you need somebody who's really going to dedicate the time to it. Because it's not even a matter of I don't know how to. It's more a matter of I don't have the time to do it. These people do have the time, and they're dedicated to do it, and they're going to do the job that that needs to get done on this, right? So having that conversation is important, and that's what it's all about. I mean, for me, like the quick hits with Osmosis, I loved it. I love being able to talk to Justin. I love being able to talk to John and Dan and Chris and like all those guys. It was amazing. I mean, I know actually I didn't get Kirby for quick hits. I had her before, but Amber, I mean, I know Amber for a while. But just being able to meet these folks that are just, wow. I mean, I talked to John Pizzura, and I couldn't believe this whole neurological, social engineering thing that he had. I was just like blown away. I kept telling my wife, I was like, this guy's amazing. Like, like he really and came up with, like it has a great model of teaching this stuff. And, it was a really great opportunity to get to know these people a little bit better and form relationships. And I have, I'm even trading emails with Nick Finberg already on a couple of things, and
Yeah.
good people, So did Justin send you any of his music or no?
No, we text every so often, but what was really great about when I subbed it to Justin was like I had this idea of how I was going to do it. And so when I reached out to Justin, I said, so this is what I was thinking. Can you tell me if this is where you would go? And when he said yes, I felt so good that I wasn't like totally crazy over there. Like,
Right.
And so it made me feel really good. And then, when he delivered the product, we talked about it before he delivered the product to the client. So it was great. But you know how I met Justin? This is so crazy. This is like how the world goes round and round is I went to the first Osmosis in Vegas and Michael, Bizzell was there.
Sure.
And I came back, I was working at Nike. I came back and I started digging into Michael, and he was a little intimidating, let me just say. And I found Justin via him. And I literally sent Justin an email, from my Nike email address and said, hey, I want to talk to you. And he's like, sure. And we've stayed, and I'm a huge Hunchley. Like when I was doing OSINT type of work, I'm Hunchley all through.
Yeah.
And we've just stayed in contact for since 2015.
Yeah.
And he's just so amazing. But it was from a connection. I was curious about Michael Bizzell, and he's a little he's super, super busy. And I'm like, I'm going to try and backdoor this into Justin. And I did.
Yeah.
And Justin's like one of my favorite connections out there. And then Andy F1 from Namibia,
Yep.
I met him and Brett from Australia, I met him in Osmosis. So you really have to go to these conferences.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've been going, I think 4 years now. I think I've been doing it, and it's an investment. It's investment in time. It's investment in not earning, getting there, paying for it, getting there, and then not earning on top of it. It totally is. But if you look at it that way, it's small picture, because the relationships that I've made there have made me a substantial amount of money in business.
Well, if you hadn't have been continually going there and staying in contact with Cynthia, would you have gotten the domain name? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she actually owned anything. If you talk about the Investigator's Toolbox, I mean, that's a funny story too. If you don't know, I had told Cynthia that I was, I'd mentioned, hey, I'm going to do this project. She's like, what's it called? And I'm like, Investigator's Toolbox. And she's like, yeah, type up virtual librarian. So I typed that in and Investigator's Toolbox. So, and she's like, oh, yeah, you can have it. Don't worry about it,
Yeah.
But the project would not have happened had it not been for Osmosis, and not because of that, but because of the relationships that I made with sponsors. So all the discounts and benefits, these are people that I've met at conferences and events that I have made relationships with. PI Perspectives would never be what it was or what it is because of me going to conferences and spending time and getting those relationships. Most of the people that come onto the show are my friends.
Yeah.
They're my friends. I mean, very rarely do I have somebody on I don't already know. There've been a few, but most people I know already. And
2 weeks before Osmosis started, I got someone who reached out to me on LinkedIn. They heard about me and they're like, can we do a call with you? We're starting up a, boutique investigative financial forensics firm. So I was like, sure, no problem. And they had never heard about Osmosis. They signed up that afternoon and they were at Osmosis. They're so excited about it. They hadn't heard about it.
Yeah.
And so it was word of mouth and, they went and signed up and I was like, it's the conference. If you want to do any type of open source intelligence, you got to go.
Yeah,
and every investigation.
The Quick Hits podcast, it probably was the turning point. They heard a couple of shows and they're like, yeah, we got to sign up. We got to go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's, you can't stay connected to all this. So we got to help each other out. And I mean, you're doing it in the community. I'm doing it in Great Women in Fraud. We have to help each other out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and, realizing that there are all different people of different ages doing this type of stuff. And, it used to be a lot of the speakers, a lot of people doing the training, a lot of doing all that. The people that have been, 30 years, 25 years, and it's like, okay, they're getting towards the end of this stuff. Maybe technology that don't really follow that, or they're onto it. But it's so nice to see like speakers now are, I mean, you get guys like Ed Ajabe, he's like just on the scene, and that guy's he's a great speaker. Shout out to Eddie. He's a good friend, and
Oh yeah,
Eddie,
I met him at Osmosis.
so he's one of my go-to guys. When I'm overwhelmed, Ed Ajab or Mike Morelli, those are the two guys that help me out doing my research, because I trust them and they know what they're doing, and they get results. At the end of the day, they get me results, and that's all I care about. And they've got more time to spend on it than I do, and they're good at it. So that's the way to do it. I recall thinking about fraud and things like that. So I had a situation. God, it must have been maybe about 10 years ago or 8 years ago. One of my biggest clients, a law firm, they decided they wanted to start using somebody in addition to me. And that would happen regularly. I've been doing business with this law firm for almost 15 years now. And over the 15 years, it's always like, well, we're going to give everything to satellite investigations. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're going to spread it out a little bit. So this was one of those spread it out points, right? So I ended up having a conversation with one of the other investigators, and we were talking, and let's just say I uncovered something that didn't look right. This guy, he was padding his billing, and he was doing things that, and he's like, yeah, what do we care about it? Like, yeah, the law firm's paying us, but their clients are the ones ultimately paying it. What's the big deal? But then that was his response to me. And I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. So I brought it to the attention of some of the people there, and I got passed along to somebody who was like managing the firm. Well, it turns out the guy that was managing the firm was kind of in with it on this guy. I didn't know about it, and it was a whole big thing. And next thing you know, people are suing one another. I'm like a witness. I gotta go give a deposition. It was messy, and it was just one of these things. Like, yeah, you can't do that, man. You can't steal like that. Like, it was blatant. He was double billing things, like extra hours, double billing. I'm just like, dude, we got to testify on cases. Like, what are you doing? This is stupid. It's not worth it.
Agreed,
man. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And like to this day, like I'm high up in my state association. I'm about to be the first vice president. And I like swore to myself, I was like, if this guy ever applies to be in the state association, I am going to veto big time. Like, it ain't happening. Right. So yeah, it's just interesting because it does happen in our industry too. Right. So it's everywhere. Even the guys and the gals that are fighting fraud, there are some fraudsters that are working on our side of the fence too. So it's a little crazy.
Oh yeah, the ACFE just pulled, I think, 2 people's CFE designation from the greater New York area, I will say.
Right.
And yeah, just, that's the thing is, I was doing a presentation for a trade association recently, and they think everyone's kind and nice, and for the most part, people are, but people make bad decisions. So you have they do it every year. Pew does the most honest professions. Well, for like 17 years, the most honest profession is a nurse. 17 years running on that survey.
Ask Bruce Sackman about that. He's got another opinion.
Well, so I show them the most honest profession is a nurse, 17 years running. And then my next slide is a nurse who stole from the VA hospital. Right. And I'm like, it can be anyone. Like, that's the other thing is people will come to me and they're masters of the universe. They're really super, super smart. And it's like, well, I'd see it. And I'm like, are you down in the weeds? You don't see it because you're not down in the weeds. Your genius is up here. You shouldn't even spend time down here, but you have to know that you got to check them out. Like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, listen, more money, more problems, more employees, more problems. We were talking about this earlier. So you being a solo and having, virtual people around you. I purposefully have a boutique business. I never wanted to be that person with 50, 60 investigators. And there are companies out there that have great models that do that. I'm a control freak, I have a really good, office manager, operations manager, who I trust, but
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. I do double check. And, it's, I don't know. I always got to have my finger on something. Right. And, it was really hard actually letting go to start off with, really hard.
Oh,
but I did see my business grow substantially when I did that, when I made that decision to bring on an administrative person to help me. And I got a good team. It's a small team right now, but it's a really good team. And, learning how to say no right now, that's what I'm learning post-COVID is, learning to downsize the business a little bit and just not take on every assignment. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's who you're going to be. So, that's been a challenge. So, okay, so we're gonna wind down over here. This has been fun. Just kind of talking fraud and talking shop here. And I really do like your podcast. I think it's great. I think you got a great future with it. You've had some really great guests on, and I always approach the booking aspect of who do I want to know about? Who would I want to hear about? What kind of questions would I ask them? And, just trying to keep it lively. But I think you have a good product, and it's definitely one that I subscribe to, and, made it part of the podcast network there on the Toolbox, because I think you're doing good stuff. So how do folks find that show, and how do they get a hold of you?
So it's just Great Women in Fraud. And I have greatwomeninfraud.com, the website. When you said thinking of guests, so I was listening to Great Women in Compliance because they're so great. And there was a woman on it, a guest that did branding, personal branding. Right. Now you would think Great Women in Fraud, personal branding. So she's going to be on my episode. She's actually from England, and it's so important. So I'm known as Pink, like people, she's the pink lady. I have a very, very strong brand. I'm also known as the fraud hashtag queen. Like I have hashtags that people know me for. I have a very strong brand, and so I wanted the sort of people getting into the career to have that sort of brand. Sure. And I thought it was really important. So I'm not going to always have like investigators. I want people so they can have a full sort of vision of their future in fraud, and it does include your brand.
Yeah, no, it's true. Everything's a part of that. So, Kelly, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and keep putting out those shows, and we'll listen to them. And if you're listening to this program, I encourage you to go check her show out, and you won't be wasting your time. I promise you that. The shows are. They're definitely worthwhile. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week on the next show. Take care.
Thank you.
We want to thank Kelly for coming on and talking fraud with us today. It can be an overlooked area for investigations, so make sure you check out her show, Great Women in Fraud. Now, don't forget to visit our YouTube page and subscribe for great video content in the future. We also want to thank Amos, Crosstracks, IRB, and USABugSweeps.com for sponsoring this show. Have you checked out InvestigatorStoolbox.com yet? Remember, it only takes 41 cents a day to unlock the future of investigations. So make an investment in your business and yourself today. The 25% legacy discount will not last long. Use code PIP201836 to save even more. Have a question or comment about the show? Email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We want your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next Monday with a new episode. So make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.